Om Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavad Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashyakritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaye Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Om Namah Pranavarthaye Shuddha Jnanaikamurtaye Nirmalaya Prashantaye Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Om Namah Pranavarthaye Shuddha Jnanaikamurtaye Nirmalaya Prashantaye Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Surya, please send a message to Dr. Mahalingam, giving him that we're going back to this ID.
Yes, Swami Ji, I have sent him.
Om Apyayantu Mamangani.
Om Apyayantu Mamangani.
Bhag Prana Chakshuhu.
Vak Prana Chakshuhu.
Shutramato Balamindriyani cha Sarvani.
Shrotamato Balamindriyani Sarvani.
Sarvam Brahma Upanishadam.
Sarvam Brahma Upanishadam.
Maham Brahma Nirakuryam.
Maham Brahma Nirakuryam.
Ma Brahma Nirakarot.
Ma Brahma Nirakarot.
Anirakaranamaspanirakaranam me astu.
Anirakaranam me astu.
Tadatmani nirate ya upanishatsu dharmaha.
Tadatmani nirate upanishatsu dharmaha.
Te mayi santu. Te
mayi santu. Te mayi santu.
Shanti Shanti
Shanti.
May all those necessary gunas be in me. In other words, may I be the adhikari. Because without being the adhikari, without having done adequate vichara, statements like the ones we saw yesterday would make no sense. They look like contradictions and can create a lot of confusion. So the adhikaritvam in terms of preparation becomes important. That's why we pray every time. We think we seek. But what Shastra is telling us, anyone who is seeking and who makes a statement, I am seeking, whatever it is that follows, is a meaningless statement as far as Brahman is concerned. It's like saying, I'm seeking the Holy Grail. You know what you're seeking? when somebody says, I am seeking, we are very clearly looking at an object that the seeker is seeking. Can you seek an object outside you which does not include you, but what you're seeking is the truth of yourself? So a statement saying I am seeking itself is a big question. Seeker is the sought. What you're seeking is your own true nature. And once that is understood, you're there, mokṣa. So Swami Ji, should I stop seeking? If you stop seeking, it does not change anything. Because what do you stop seeking? What you stop seeking is also something external. So even to say I am seeking is an invalid statement. Therefore, I stop seeking is worse. It is like we discussed yesterday. I know something is clearly I know something external to myself, because the something I know, there is a knower who knows something. It is the same thing if I say I don't know this thing. Same thing. There is a knower who does not know something. Still an object. The same way when somebody says, I'm told I am seeking is an invalid statement, therefore I stop seeking. That does not change anything. You're still not seeking that object outside you. Like sometimes, I don't know if you've had this happen to you, you're combing, and in the middle of the combing, something comes up urgently, so you attend to that, and then start searching for the comb. Where did I leave the comb? All over the place I go and search. Who's seen my comb? Where is it gone? Right there on your head. Or that famous example of a book called Three Men in a Boat. I don't know if you've read that book, very old book. As a counterpart to the counterpart, the second book called Three Men in a Bumble by the same author, Jerome K. Jerome. And he writes about an uncle of his who would make such a noise, hurling abuses, everybody saying, where are my glasses? Where are my glasses? Searching all over the house. Who's taken it away? Who's put it somewhere else? All the time it's hanging behind his back. But you're looking elsewhere. You're looking for an object. Reality, what you're looking for is you. And the reason we find it very difficult is because that conviction that I am this body, mind, sense complex, whatever inside this body, mind, sense complex does not go. When we study all this in the class, it looks clear. The teacher has explained everything, and it looks clear. The whole concept seems very clear. When I make a statement like the whole concept is clear, it means the concept is something else outside. So what happens? Another friend comes and says, where were you? He said, oh, I was in a class on Kenopanishad. Wonderful class. So clear everything. Swami Ji explained everything. It's so clear. Oh, I say, what did he explain? He said something about it is not known, it is not unknown. You have so much difficulty explaining it. Let us go through this. It is therefore a good idea to try to explain to somebody else. He'll probably make it clearer for us. So many statements here which are contradiction in terms. I am seeking, I've stopped seeking, are both difficult statements to comprehend. Like that fellow in a court of law, he was under oath. And the lawyer reminded him, you are under oath, sir. You cannot give a falsehood. Please answer this question, yes or no. Yes, sure. Have you stopped beating your wife? What does he say? He says, yes, I've stopped beating my wife. Or does he say no? What does he say? It's like this. It is neither in the category of known nor in the category of unknown. Neither in the category of something being sought nor in the category of not being sought. How do I understand this? Sometimes people will say, Swamiji, in the classes, very interesting, but you say the same thing over and over again, over and again, again you say the same thing. It's correct. Punaruktam. Punaruktam, again and again, same thing, na dosha. And one has to continue to hear, do shravanam and do mananam till it becomes absolutely clear. Our Upanishads follow the same strategy. They know that one reading will not be enough. For most of us, there may be people already so well prepared that you just tell them Tattvamasi, you can go home. You're okay. But even in the Upanishads, where we have the Shishya who are extremely well prepared, have been told to go back and come back after 1 year for 30 times. Go, come back, go, come back, go, come back. Our orientation externally is so strong. Because what we know, what we've been hearing, what we've been seeing, what we've been practicing is in this Jagat, Vyavahara. And in the Vyavahara, there must be a subject and there must be an object. Otherwise, no Vyavahara is possible. And what we are trying to understand is the nature of the self where there is no Vyavahara. We are so oriented towards this Jagat, towards this Sloka, that we are constantly separating an object and a subject. But what we are seeking is the very content, the very atma of both the subject and the object. And the very content, the very satta, very nature, very atma of that subject and object, is not something which can be separated either from the object or from the subject. If you separate, there's no object. If you separate, there's no subject. If you try to separate, you cannot separate. Unless one gets this strength of being able to cognize that which is the satta of the object and the satta of the subject, it will always remain a mystery. Nyayatvam, the knowability of an object, comes because it is separate from the subject. That is how we know all the objects in the world. It has knowability. But because we applied the same rule to try and understand Brahman as an object, we impose knowability, nyayatvam, on Brahman as well. And how do we do that? By superimposing the attributes of the upadhi, where there is no attribute. Wonderful example is the crystal, which has no color, but seems to acquire the color of the background. That is what happens. Therefore, on that attributeless Brahman, which I am trying to understand as the nature of I, we color it with the attributes of the upadhi. Body, mind, indriyani, panchabhutas. So we give it those attributes and then define. That's why he said, when we talk about an Ishta Devata, because for us to understand directly the idea of Nirguna Brahman is a little far-fetched. So we attribute certain form, certain properties, certain strengths to our Ishta Devata. 4 hands, various ayuda, various blessing, all things we attribute. That we then pray to, we do upasana to. But our Kenopanishad repeatedly told us, Nedam yadidam upasate. Again and again. That is not Brahman. That is Brahman. But Brahman is not there. It is very confusing to say subject and object are the same, because the content of the subject, the content of the object, the existence of the subject, existence of the object, everything is that one invariable, unchanging Brahman I. We fortunately have this dream world, Swapna Prapancham, where we can easily see that the subject and all the objects in the dream Prapancham, their very essence, their very being, without which they cannot exist, is the knowledge of the dreamer. The dreamer projects an entire Jagat, varied in many ways, by the knowledge that has been gathered already in the waking state. And whatever subject object you see in the Swapna Prapancham exists. Satta is nothing but this knowledge. Yeah. Consciousness, which I cannot separate. Therefore, I need the help of Shastra and the appropriate Guru to help me cognitively figure it out. When somebody attributes various qualities to his or her idea of Brahman, then they become what in Shastra is called Purva Pakshi. When we study Bhashyam, we will see this. Again and again, Shankaracharya will invoke the Purva Pakshi. Because the Purva Pakshi draws a conclusion by attributing these qualities to Brahman and saying, I know Brahman. I know Brahman to be like this. And we've seen that that kind of statement is really an invalid statement. This idea to understand, one has to understand mithya. The whole Jagat exists. Like in the dream world, everything is true, everything is real, everything is touchable, feelable, palpable. As long as one is seeing the perspective of the Swapna Prapancham. It is not something that can be dismissed while still in the dream state. And yet we know it is not real. Agaspa prabodha samaye ya pratyavijñāyate. That is why many places you will find wake up. Shastra saying, shake yourself from this so convincing a state that we all get into, out of that state, so that you are able to see the other perspective. Mithya is not something which is false, which can be thrown away. Mithya tells us the existence of Satya. There is no Mithya without a Satya. That's why I said you cannot separate them. Every object, every thought, every feeling, every emotion, the truth of every idea of time, of space, the truth of all of them is that one unchanging Brahman. And every time you say unchanging Brahman, please add I. Unchanging Brahman, which is I. We know everything this that we think we know because there's a thought. Even when our senses report the existence of anything, there is a thought enveloping that object. So you have a wall thought, a lamp thought, a curtain thought, a room thought, a pen thought. But we've already seen that manasana manute. How do these thoughts happen? How do these thoughts enclose the object and give us knowledge of the object? What makes the thought a thought? What gives thought an existence? What gives knowledge existence? What gives ignorance existence? That satyam is what we are trying to understand. Every thought reveals an object, not necessarily a physical object. But it also reveals that which is behind the thought. Existence, consciousness. A computer is, a lamp is, a wall is, atmosphere is, space is. The very easiness of everything is because of the backing of the satyam. You can't simply say wall. You have to say wall is. You can't simply say my head is doing something. That satta of everything is the nature of Brahman. Same thing with when you say what knowledge, wall knowledge, room knowledge, time knowledge. Every knowledge is known. How? No, Swami, there are many knowledge which is not known. Same how? Known or not known, the thing that is common in all of them, that we sometimes miss. So if we take a universe of clay material, you have pot knowledge, lid knowledge, jar knowledge, and all the other big pot knowledge, small pot knowledge. But in all of them, there is only clay. This kind of contradictory statements that you see here arises because of our focusing only on objects. That's why we saw in another Upanishad, Paranchikani Yathanat Swayambhu. All our senses are external focused. That's all we know. In fact, that particular mantra says, Swayambhu, Bhagavan has destroyed us by making all of them external looking. We are not able to see the clay in all these materials, the satta of all of them. The Upanishad we saw in the last two verses this wonderful dialogue between the teacher and the student. A student who had understood, he also claims that this statement of mine, which looks contradictory, anybody amongst us who has understood this has understood. Yap pashyati sa pashyati. Having then thus revealed Brahman, which is the only way you can reveal Brahman, only way you can see it cannot be an object, all objects being mithya. Non-self-existing. The Upanishad then takes over again and says the same thing in other words. That's why we find the repetition over and over again. The third verse of this second chapter, what has been discussed between the student and the teacher is succinctly summed up by the Upanishad. Third verse goes, third verse. Yasya matam tasya matam.
Tasya matam.
Matam yasya na vedasaha.
Matam vedasaha.
Avijñātam vijānatam.
Avijñātam vijānatam.
Vijñātam avijānatam.
Vijñātam avijānatam.
He made those famous statements, manye viditam, naham manye suvedeti. Upanishad says, yasya amatam, tasya matam. Absolutely contradictory statement. Yasya amatam, tasya matam. He who does not know, knows. Not only that, doesn't stop there. Matam yasya na vedasaha. Who has that, he who has that knowledge, he doesn't know. He who doesn't know, knows. He who doesn't know, knows. And he who knows, na vedasaha. How can you say when you know, you don't know, and when you don't know, you know? As long as our buddhi is working to seek Brahman externally, trying to objectify I, Brahman, and therefore coming to either know Brahman or to a conclusion, I don't know Brahman, such a person doesn't know. You've seen this. When you say, I know Brahman, it is like saying, I know tree. So, Upanishad actually sums up those two verses. Not once, twice. He who knows, or he who does not know, yasya amatam, tasya matam. Brahman cannot be enclosed in any thought. Thought exists because of Brahman and non-separable. So as long as we are only looking at it as an object, confidently you can say, you don't know. But when he says, matam yasya na vedasaha, yasya amatam, one who says, I do not know this as an object. Naham manye suvedeti. I do not know it as an object very well. Then he knows. Because if it is not an object, it has to be the very nature of the self. There are a lot of bhashyam in this, and the next mantra goes into very deep arguments. Purva Pakshi coming up with his own idea. When we do study the bhashyam, we will go into that. But it is simply a summation of what has been said so far. He who does not know knows. He who thinks he knows does not know. It doesn't stop there. Also says, avijñātam vijānatam. Anything, different words. And vijñātam avijñānatam. If you try to objectify like you do everything else, now for this the mind has to be oriented. You could be a great scholar, great thinker, great analyst. But as long as the orientation in the mind is towards objects, this is not going to happen. Which is why prayer becomes so important. We know we have this orientation as a human being. And we know this orientation will block any possibility of our understanding this. Again and again, we'll come back to that only. How are you going to know this? There's only one help. All-knowing Ishvara. Please help me understand what Shastra says. I have Shraddha in the Shastra. And Shastra says, I am Brahman. But I have a limited body, a limited mind. How can I be the unlimited Brahman? I'm sure it is right. I hope it is right, because that way I am unlimited. I am Mahan. But please help me understand how. Prayer becomes such an important thing. Every object, like I said, is enclosed by a thought. That's how you know the object. But suppose you say, I want all objects to be enclosed because I am everything. Everything is I. What will you get? Probably a mess. Where is knowledge going to come from? I put in so much effort. I have so much Shraddha. I have a guru. And Shastra actually says, Acharyavan Purusham Veda. But how? How am I going to know? Next verse, the last of this actual teaching takes us into that realm of knowing. Can you put on the fourth verse? Pratibodha viditam matam
Pratibodha viditam matam
Pratibodhaviditam matam
amrutatvam hi vindate
amritatvam
amritatvam hi vindate
atmana vindate viryam
atmana vindate
atmana
viryam
vidyaya vindate mrutam.
vidyaya
vidyaya
vindate
mritam.
The first pada, pratibodha viditam matam. Bodham bodham prati. In every thought, in every knowledge, you can see the truth. Question was, how do I know? How do I know Brahman? Our normal, every thought encloses an object and keeps changing. Now it is pot knowledge, pot thought. Tomorrow, or immediately after that, it is some other knowledge, some other thought. But what is common in every thought? What is common in every recognition of ease? Whether it is a pot is or something else is, curtain is, room is, pen is. Or it is pot knowledge, lid knowledge, gold knowledge, anything. What is common? Can I recognize that? Bodham bodham prati. In every bodha, in every thought, in every knowledge, viditam matam. You can see the truth. Like our dream world. In everything in the dream, when you come out of the dream, you can recognize that one dreamer's knowledge, which seems to take so many different shapes, so many different forms. Like I said, if you go into a gold shop, generally our perspective is in the Namarupa. So we see a gold chain, a gold bangle, a beautifully created gold chain, chunky gold chain. What is the adhara for everything, which we often don't see? It is nothing but gold. If a bullion trader comes there, he doesn't see a gold chain. He doesn't see a beautiful gold ring. He sees only, quick estimate, probably about 30 kilos. Because he sees that gold. Bodham bodham prati. Everything, if you can see what is common, you can recognize what is common without necessarily having to split it away from whatever you see. You don't have to separate the gold chain from the gold. You cannot separate it. But in the recognition, one sees that which is common. Bodham bodham prati. In a simpler sense, we say, now you understand, when, for example, mother says to the child, Irupadalam Irevane, how much has the mother understood? How much does the child understand? Bodham bodham prati. We see sameness in everybody. On the face of it, doesn't sound correct. Sarvam Brahma. I see Brahman in everything. Brahman is Parameshwara. For our understanding, we say Jagat Karanam Brahman. In everything, small, big, near, far, sentient, non-sentient, tangible, intangible. In everything, I see the presence of that Brahman, consciousness, awareness. Nya Dhatu. That is the only way to recognize the nature of Brahman, the nature of I. When one recognizes like that, then this body, mind, sense complex also becomes part of that. All that I had conclusively determined to myself that is I, gets consigned to the mithya. And along with everything else, I see the presence of consciousness in that also. Bodham bodham prati. Viditam matam. So the answer to that question, how do I then see this? If it is not among the known, if it is not among the unknown, I see this as the very Atma of everything. That very Atma of everything, including my body, mind, sense complex, is I. Somewhere you see things like, there's a small I and a big I. Small I is all this body, mind, sense complex. I thought was I, small I. Big I is a big I. You understand what it says. I am the very basis, not a very good word, very Atma, very content of everything. And yet I cannot get away from Vivahara. Vivahara is there, which is what makes it more complex. I have to deal with this Jagat because this body exists. The body is not a non-existent thing. The body has to transact. So the person who understands transacts in the body without any attachment. That is how we say asanga. Whatever happens, happens. That's happened because of prarabdha. Bodham bodham prati viditam matam. In one pada, you summed up the whole thing saying, this is not this, not this, not this. You cannot learn like this. You cannot do like this. Think like this. Wrong. If you think like this, you will not understand. One simple. Recognize the presence of consciousness in everything. And that consciousness is you. Tat Tvamasi. What is the purpose of doing all this? Even if I recognize myself, what is the benefit? Somewhere vaguely I have an idea, because Shastra says so, that there is something called moksha. And I've studied, I also repeat words, moksho me bhuyat. And I'm not clear what is in it for me. WIIFM. What is in it for me? I'm still thinking of me as what? Body mechanism complex. It is like the Purva Pakshi who's only understood this much, saying that Shastra says it is neither known nor unknown. It is beyond thought. And he comes up with one philosophy. There is no beyond thought. It is that which is every thought. And I gain this knowledge. What happens? Anyway, I'm living in the Jagat. I have good times, sometimes I have bad times. In fact, more times I have not comfortable times. My life is full of sukha, sukha, dukha, 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 sukha, sukha, dukha, 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 sukha, sukha, sukha. This is my life. It's okay, I will carry on. Tathastu, God bless you. Please carry on. What is it that Shastra is telling us? Why should I study? Why should I put in so many hours every day, try to understand it? Why should I confuse my mind with so many things which sound contradictory? And try to understand. So in this verse, it also talks about the phala. Having said, this is the background under which you study, and you look for and try and understand what is common in every thought, in every knowledge, as consciousness I, having understood it says, Amritatvam hi vindate. One who is able to see that which is common in every thought, in every existence, in every one of them. Therefore, Anantam. Amritatvam vindate. He gains Amritatvam. Mrita is death. Maranam. Amritatvam is freedom from death. If he's already understood, then he also knows death has nothing to do with him. That is to with the body that you know. Like everything else in this jagat, the body also has to arise, go through all the vikara and be destroyed. Asti jati vardhate viparnimate apakshiyate vinashyati. Everything goes through this. What is my amritatvam? It is just this recognition that I am not the one who dies. I am not subject to time. I am Satyam. Satyam is I. And I am the basis on which all this mithya appears. appears to exist. He is known. And what happens if I don't study this, don't understand this? Loss is infinite. Only when you recognize the loss, you will see the infinity loss. Like the fellow who was sitting in the streets begging outside the temple. Somebody recognized him as the prince of another country. He said, I'm the minister of so-and-so country, you're the prince. He said, go away. If you stand here with me, nobody will give me any arms. Please go away from here. No, you're the prince. So what's in it for me? Hey, you don't recognize it. Your loss is infinite if you don't recognize. We will look at the story of the prince tomorrow for next class. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Vasishyate.
Om Shanti Hari Om.
Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.